Hey friends, welcome back to Unblocked, the podcast where we identify and remove the blocks that are standing in the way of you living the life that you were designed for. I'm your host, Jessica Smarro, life and mindset coach, licensed therapist, and your go-to truth teller, friends. Today, we're going to talk about something that hits so many of us right in the old relational gut, and that is the belief that if someone we care about is having a hard feeling, then we must have done something wrong. Or worse, that the relationship is now in danger. This came up because I was in a client session and one of my clients said, she said, I haven't done anything wrong. But the way she said it made it clear that she did not believe that. And so we dug around a little bit, and something else that came up was this belief. She said, I feel like I have to walk on eggshells because if my friend gets emotional and they're all in their feelings, then I don't have my friend anymore. And I was like, okay, stop right there. Y'all, and we dug into it into session, but I was like, I need to come talk to y'all about this on the podcast because I know she's not alone. A lot of us have learned somewhere along the way that if someone else is having a hard emotion, it means that we're in trouble. It means we did something wrong, and it means if we're not careful, we're going to lose the relationship. Even if we know we didn't do something wrong, we're afraid that we're going to lose the friendship or the relationship. So let's unpack that. All right. Um, Here's what I see often is that someone close to you gets mad, they get hurt, they feel disappointed, and suddenly your nervous system goes into panic mode and you start scanning for what did I do wrong? How do I fix this and fast? Should I apologize? Even if I'm not sure for what, right? We end up tiptoeing, we shrink, we start people pleasing, and a lot of times we start to silence ourselves. We silence our needs, our wants, our requests, our truths. But listen, someone having an emotion doesn't mean you did something wrong. It means they're human. It means they're having a human moment. I will tell you all, when my husband and I first got together, he would get wildly uncomfortable if I was having an emotion, especially if I cried. And now, to be fair, to his credit, I probably didn't cry in front of him for I think it was like 2 years after we got together. Like, even as a licensed therapist, I was a bit of a late bloomer on the whole allowing emotions part of life. So, but something I would find myself saying to him often is, I am having a feeling that doesn't mean that we have a problem, right? Like, how human of me to have a feeling. I can have a feeling, and that doesn't mean anything's broken. It doesn't mean I even want him to do anything different or change anything. It just means I'm having a feeling, and feelings are going to pass. Feelings aren't facts, all of that fun stuff. So, if someone is having a feeling, it might be real, it might even be valid, and lean in for what I'm about to say. It might be real, it might be valid, and it's not your responsibility to fix it or absorb it. Okay, do I need to repeat that? It is not your responsibility to fix somebody else's emotions. It is also not your responsibility to take on somebody else's emotions. Sometimes we get stuck in this relational, like emotional enmeshment where the other person's anger starts to become our shame or their sadness becomes our guilt. And then the relationship starts to feel like a landmine. Like you're constantly like tiptoeing, like, am I gonna step on the next, bomb, right? No, like then it makes sense. Like, right, no wonder that we walk on eggshells. But I want to offer you this. Love doesn't need defending. It also doesn't need some like ultra high level strategy session or response. Like, if your connection is rooted in love, it doesn't collapse the moment somebody feels disappointed or uncomfortable or angry or hurt, or even betrayal. That might be a whole nother podcast episode. But here's the thing, we live in a culture where the moment that there's conflict, we tend to run, right? A friend is mad, you're like, unfollow. Someone's disappointed, they get angry, block them, right? They're annoying you, block them. A relationship starts to get rocky and they just break up. Right? But we don't build emotional endurance that way. If we don't stick around, like we don't give ourselves a chance to actually lean into some emotional maturity. And here's the thing, right? In full fairness, we we don't have a lot of models of people staying in connection while holding space for hard feelings, right? Like that's not like widely is what I'm trying to say. It's not widely demonstrated in like in in the public settings, right? And likely inside of your house growing up or inside of your close relationships, you might not see a lot of examples of this. Like we put on fronts, right? Like we show in public, like, oh, we just get along. This is actually another conversation my husband and I had when we first got together, and he has kids, and there would be times where I wouldn't call it a fight, but we were definitely having a disagreement, right? Like he was saying something, and I was like, I don't think it should be that way, and we were having the conversation in front of the kids, and he was like, should we be doing that? And I was like, yeah, like it's great, it's good, it's healthy for kids to see healthful discourse, right? Being in relationship and being in love doesn't always mean being in agreement. Okay. But most of us were taught that conflict is dangerous. Anger means abandonment. Disappointment means disconnection. But here's what I want to offer you. Real connection is not the absence of discomfort. It's the presence of honesty. And emotional maturity is being able to say things like, I'm hurt and I'm still here, right? I'm angry and I still love you. I'm uncomfortable and I'm not going anywhere, right? Like that's emotional maturity. That starts to create healthy relationships and safe ones. Okay. And now, to be clear, I'm not saying like stay in bad relationships where people are treating you terribly and emotionally intense. No, I'm just saying you can feel a feeling, and that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the relationship. So I want to talk about this from a thought work and mindset perspective. So if you're listening to this podcast, I am going to assume, I want to assume, but I'm not going to. I want to assume that you're familiar with the steer model. And if you're not, grab the show notes. In the show notes, I'm going to put a link to the Unblocked journal. And in that journal, it goes a little bit more into the steer model. And it also will send you, it'll email you some videos that explain it more in depth. But as a recap, I'll remind you that STEER is an acronym that stands for Situation, Thoughts, Emotions, Actions, Result. Situations are neutral until you have a thought about them. And the thoughts, and they're optional and they create your emotions. And emotions drive your actions. So the part I want to really focus on for today's purposes is the TEA part. We want to focus on the T. And that is, thoughts create emotions, emotions drive your actions. So the other person in this relationship, the other person and their thoughts, their emotions, their actions, that goes in the situation line of the model. It's totally neutral, right? Again, I'm gonna hold your hand while you listen to that part. Another person's thoughts about you, their emotional response to you, the way that they respond and their actions, their behaviors, those are all neutral. They go in the situation line of your model and they have no meaning until you have a thought about them. So I want you to be curious about the story that you're telling yourself about relationships. I want you to be curious about the story that you're telling yourself about your friend, your partner, your siblings, the clerk at the grocery store. Okay? Because it is very hard to actually experience the people we're in relationship with. And here's what I mean by that. What we are really experiencing is the story that we're telling ourselves about them, right? It's really hard to see humans neutrally, especially if we are emotionally connected to them. So so thinking about your thoughts, emotions, and actions and separating it from the way they're showing up is really insightful. So imagine if you're thinking things like she's judging me or he's pulling away or they don't even care about me anymore. Imagine how you're going to feel and think about how the ways that you might show up. She's judging me. You might feel defensive. You might start shutting down. You probably are going to start judging her, right? So, like, bring some awareness to this is the story I'm telling myself. It may or may not be true. She may or may not be judging me. He may not think he's pulling away. They may care a lot about you, and their behaviors are just their behaviors. So, I want you to think about what if there's another explanation? What if there's another truth? What if they're just having a feeling, right? So I want to talk for a moment about the cost of avoiding emotional discomfort. Okay, when we believe that a hard feeling means danger, and we tend to not speak up, right? That is one cost. When we stuff down our needs, we often, when we start editing our truths, when we contort ourselves into who we think that other people want us to be, the cost of that is intimacy, because all that, like, none of that is intimacy, it's performance. And also, what ends up happening, y'all, like, y'all know this. Like, I want you to think about these situations. Like, you start to edit yourself, you're contorting yourself, you're doing all this people pleasing, and you're trying to control their feelings, trying to control how they experience you, and then they don't comply. Right? You're like, I'm doing all these things so that you feel loved, and then they don't. I'm doing all these things so that you're happy, and then they're not. Then we end up feeling resentful. Then we feel unseen. Then we feel burnt out and disconnected, right? Ironically, the thing that we were trying to avoid, disconnection, is what we end up creating. Because if you can only be in a relationship when everything feels good and light and easy, you want to get curious, like, is that even a real relationship, right? Because here's the cost. If you are tiptoeing around all that, if you are self-editing and shrinking and people pleasing, you don't get to be fully known, one. And two, neither do they. Okay, I'm just gonna pause there for dramatic effect. You don't actually get to know each other when you're both just trying to show up, pretending to be a version that the other wants you to be and trying to contort yourself so that the other person has a feeling. Okay, you don't get to be known, neither do they. But let me offer you some hope. Holding space without losing connection, it's possible. Okay, let me offer you a metaphor. It's one that I love, and I want you to think about emotions like weather. In a fragile relationship, the first sign of rain sends everyone running. But in a secure relationship, you learn to sit under the same umbrella. Okay, you learn how to say things like, "I can feel your storm," and not make it mean something about me. You learn to say, I can witness your sadness without trying to fix it or flee it. That one can be really hard when you see people that you love who are hurting. And especially, y'all, again, let me hold your hand while I say this, especially when you are the reason that they are sad or hurting. Not by intention, sometimes maybe, right? That doesn't mean, but that they still might be sad and hurting, right? So it can be really hard to say, I can witness your sadness without trying to fix it or flee. Saying things like, I can feel your anger without shrinking myself. Like, I can allow you to be angry. I wouldn't say I can feel your anger. I can witness your anger. I can allow you to be angry without having to shrink myself. That's where real connection lives, not in the absence of the storms, not in the absence of the intense emotions, but in the presence of staying. So here's a mindset shift that I invite you to try on. Healthy relationships are built to weather the storms. Like, just try, like, check in with something, like, see how that feels in your body. Also, think about how that might apply to some of your relationships. Where do you know that to be true? Another mindset shift I would offer is, I would rather be honest and have the relationship end than keep playing a role just to maintain the illusion of connection. Right? That's a little bit of a gut punch hard one, but think about it. Think about that truth when you are um, pretending and hiding, and it's like when you have to strategize every conversation you have with the person you're in a relationship with. Like, what kind of relationship is that really, right? Like, would you rather have a relationship where you can show up as you and let them be them, or would you rather keep playing a role? Another mindset shift that can be really helpful is to think, my only job is to take 100% responsibility for my 50% of the relationship. You don't need to fix, manage, or contort to control how somebody else feels. Okay. So story time. Let me tell you about a time when I almost shut down. Like that, listen, old Jessica, super old school me. I had this nasty habit of, what do we call this? Avoidant attachment. I would shut down. Like if I felt any prickly feelings or uncomfortable emotions, I would shut down in relationship. So I almost shut down on a friendship because I thought she was mad at me. She had canceled dinner plans about an hour before we were scheduled to meet up. And now listen, sometimes my introverted self loves a good last minute cancellation. But here's the thing about brains. They're fickle, they're not always consistent. And on this particular day, my brain ran wild with stories like, she's being short with me. It's a text, right? It's a text, but she's being short with me. What does that even mean? But she's being short with me. She's mad. I must have done something. I must have done something wrong. Also, she doesn't value our friendship. Like if she really cared, she would have thought to cancel sooner. But when I paused and I really examined the story I was telling myself, I realized it was based on fear and frustration, not on facts, right? Feelings are not facts. So I reached out and I said, hey, I'm feeling a little tender. I'm having some feelings, and my brain is spinning a story that says that you're mad at me, and I know that might not be true. And I care about you, so I would rather check in than assume. And her response, no one's going to be surprised. Her response was like, "Oh my gosh, like not at all. This has nothing to do with you. I'm exhausted." And then she went on to explain how she'd had a hectic day with unexpected deadlines and things, and just things happening at work. And then there were some unexpected family obligations that popped up. And so my honesty in that moment actually deepened the friendship, right? Because honesty builds safety, right? And safety is what makes relationships sustainable, right? So ask yourself, what do I need to believe in order to be honest and stay connected? Also ask yourself, can I believe that this relationship can hold discomfort? And another great question is, can I trust that we can navigate the hard feelings without cutting ties? And if not, what's keeping me from believing that? Right? Like, so give yourself a chance to find out. Give yourself a chance to be wrong. You can lead with honesty. So next time you feel nervous about a hard conversation, try something with, like, again, I like to tell people, get ahead of it. Like, call out your fears ahead of time. So you might say something like, I feel nervous about this conversation because I care about you and I'm afraid this might upset you. But I value our friendship enough to lean into trust here. I trust that we're strong enough to navigate hard truths and hard feelings. That, my friends, is intimacy. Okay, so let's put this all together. Like, what can we do with all of this? I want to offer you some shifts that you can start making, start trying on in your relationships. Let me know how it goes. Okay, like feel free to throw some of this out if you're like, absolutely not, Jessica. Feel free to treat it like an experiment and go try this out and let me know what comes of it. So here are some shifts. Notice when you're shrinking or contorting yourself. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I was honest in this situation? Another thing you can try is stop interpreting someone else's emotions as your personal failure. Just for funsies. That sounds like a fun one to try, right? Their mood doesn't mean that you're to blame. Okay, so try that on. Also, I would encourage you to get curious instead of guilty. Instead of thinking, what did I do wrong? Try some better high quality questions like, what might be going on for them right now? Or listen, if you really want to go for it, ask them. Get curious instead of making assumptions and thinking you did something wrong. You might just ask them. I notice that you're upset. You look upset. I think that you're upset. The story I'm telling myself is that I did something wrong. Can you tell me what's going on here? How fun is that? You're like, Jessica, your definition of fun's different than mine. That's fair. Another thing I would invite you to do is practice naming your truth, right? And I gave you some examples of this earlier, but like sharing, I feel anxious that you're upset and I want to stay in connection while we work through this. Just practice naming it. Make it weird, make it normal to like share your feelings, right? There's like some memes out there like tell your friends you love them, make it weird. Like tell your friends the truth, make it weird, make it commonplace. And then the last thing I would offer is hold the belief that discomfort isn't danger. It's just data. So, if you have been walking on eggshells for most of your life in friendship, in relationship, and family systems, I want to remind you that you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to feel safe in relationships. You are allowed to witness someone else's hard feelings without making mean that you're bad, that you're broken. You don't have to disappear the second that it gets messy. You're allowed to stay. And guess what? So are they. When you give the other person a chance to show you that they're capable of staying in hard conversation. The relationship might not be as fragile as you think. You are allowed to show up fully, even in discomfort, and so are your people. It might be messy and it might feel nauseating, but there's a really good chance it's worth it. Okay, my friends, that is what I have for you today. If this resonated, share it with someone, like share this with somebody who needs to hear it. And I would be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave a review for the podcast if you found this helpful. Also, send me a message on Instagram at Jessica Smarro or on all the social medias. Tell me how this went for you. Or better yet, go out and have a real conversation with someone in your life. Let them see you, let it be honest, because that's where connection begins. Until next time, my friends, stay open, stay free.